Every now and then I get an opportunity to make a video that connects a lot of the concepts that we normally discuss. And for me personally, these videos or learning about this particular topic ends up being a eureka moment in trying to understand our ancestral worldview and how it applies to my own life. So a lot of these videos become kind of personal. Now, whether or not I can help you have the same eureka moment that I had is to be determined by watching the video. But for me, learning about Amadioha was one of those moments that made it all make sense. Now, one question that's a lot less personal, but equally important, is this. Why do polytheistic religions consistently feature sky gods with associations to thunder? What about the sky is particularly masculine to the ancient eye? And whether it's Zeus, Nzazi, Shango, Thor, Jupiter, Rai, Jin, and others, why are the same general features consistently associated with these forces? This is a question which I'll give my own theory to towards the end of the video, so if you're interested, stay tuned. There's also an ilu that may point to the answer, as it is the source of my own answer that I'll be sharing in the middle of the video. I'll let you know when I say it. But my own theory as far as how the sky gods or the thunder gods of the world seem to have the same general features will give insight as to how the polytheistic mind forms gods, or how gods are identified, regardless of the culture you're looking at. This is Derek Ofadarmo with the Medicine Shell, and today I'm going to explain Amadioha in Igbo cosmology. In this video, I'll explain who Amadioha is, what being a man meant to our ancestors, and how you cannot understand manhood without Amadioha, and cannot understand Amadioha without understanding manhood. To fully understand this, I'll introduce the shape of the human spirit according to our ancestors, or the 7 waves of Mo that emanate from you, that is known in some cultures as chakras, how Chukwu manifests into the living world, and how our ancestors channeled Amadioha, and why, as well as what it looks like when Amadioha manifests in human form, because you have definitely seen him before. Now, because it is impossible to understand Amadioha without understanding what a man is, I want to ask for your take or your opinion or maybe how you feel about this question. And the question is, what is a man? If you have the answer, comment below. I'd be interested in seeing what your take is. And as always, no answer is wrong. For me, the idea of what a man is particularly interesting. Everywhere you go, there's always a question of who is a man and what rights and privileges are afforded to that type of person for that reason, and whether or not they're deserved. Like, for example, some men are considered more man than others, as if it's a shifting scale, or as if it is not always a biological given. There's a lot of language that implies it is associated to a merit system. Phrases like, he's not a man or he's not man enough couldn't be said if this concept was not uniquely complex. So, the question for today is, what is a man? If you have an answer, comment below. If you're interested in Igbo spirituality, cosmology, and culture, hit subscribe and make sure to hit the bell icon. And if you're interested in helping keeping this channel alive and going, you can join our growing community at patreon.com/themedicineshell. As a thank you to my patrons have access to an in-house Dibia, the digital 13-moon Odinani calendar that our ancestors used, with its 4-day week, 13 moons or months, and different rites and rituals throughout the year, as well as my digital library, which has close to 400 documents, ebooks, articles, journals, and other insights and studies, which I use for my own research. All of this is available at patreon.com/themedicineshell. And for those who are interested in learning how to pray the way our ancestors did, and specifically in the Igbo language, I've published a very short, easy to follow step-by-step booklet on how to perform Igbo-Ofo. Igbo-Ofo is important in family protection, spiritual cleansing, serving and receiving justice and success. And I understand that everybody doesn't speak Igbo, so I've included a pronunciation guide as well as translations from English to Igbo for every phrase. This is available at patreon.com/themedicineshell at all tiers. And with that being said, let's begin. Amadioha today is known as the god of thunder, an often wrathful, smiting god with a vague association to the ram. He frequently appears in curses such as Amadioha Bawogeba or May Amadioha strike you where you stand. But as always, the truth behind Amadioha, as well as most concepts as they are casually understood, goes far deeper than what is spoken of on the surface. And to fully understand Amadioha, one must begin by understanding Chukwu and Igbo cosmology. In the ancestral worldview, God is both woman and man. a cosmic couple which creates all things. And this couple is Chi and Eke, known in full as Chineke. In this couple, the masculine Chi is the potential, unmanifest absolute, the conceiver of all things, and Eke, the manifested actuality of all things, or the universe as a whole. This relationship, Chineke, therefore forms all things, as all things are repetitions of this formula for existence and creation, meaning that all things manifest not as a singularity, but as one parcel of a couple, or as the ancestral Ilu says, wa wa bwa bwa, the universe comes in twos. Because all of existence and inexistence is a repetition of this pattern, Igbo cosmology features a series of dualities with the same relationship between themselves that Chi and Eke have with each other. This relationship being a relationship of manifestation through self-observation, or in other words, one exists because the other exists, or one exists because the other observes its existence. I am Nwoke, or man, because there is existence of Nwai, or woman, which forms the duality Nwoke and Nwai. I am Di, or husband, because I have a Nwunye, or wife. There is Madu, the person, because there is Mo, the Oraic spirit. There is Allah, because there is Igwe. And if you watched my video, Ofo Explained, which I've linked below, there is Ofo, because there is Ogun. And this particular duality is very important to remember for this video, and I'll explain how shortly. In all of these cases, these dualities come into existence with each other, and as self-observers are two halves of a single unit, where one's existence allows the other to exist and vice versa. If you are a creator, it is your creation that makes you a creator. Without that creation, you are not a creator. And the creation itself does not exist without a creator. So in the view of our ancestors, creator and creation are one force or movement through nature, represented in a single duality, such as Chineke. And in this worldview, these two things are not opposites, but rather two halves of a whole, which must face each other in order for existence to happen between them. From these dualities, we derive guidance on how the universe works. By first identifying a duality, particular truths are revealed about its nature, and that nature will let you know which place each of the two parts hold in the duality, which is important for understanding them in the grand scheme of things. In these matchups, one is a Chi, or an abstract conceptualizing force, while the other is an Eke, a more tangible manifest force, a creating or created force. And to understand this, let's look at Ofo Nogun. An Ofo is a covenant, a pact, or agreement made which brings the principles of the agreement into life as truths. For example, when a group of our ancestors moved into a particular land and wish to settle and call it home, they make an agreement with the land itself that they will follow a set of divine laws known as Iwala. Iwala are a set of principles that all descendants of that community will uphold for the remainder of that community's existence. These are agreements made with Ana, the Abara of the earth, and the central force in Igbo cosmology. Ana is conceptualized as a woman, most specifically a mother, or a woman who is perpetually giving, selfless, and nurturing. And what is promised to the earth, or Ana, becomes law. These agreements, or this pact, is an Ofo, and once handed the Ofo, or once a people receive an Ofo from the earth, they then have the right and authority to live on that land and receive from that perpetually giving, selfless nature of the earth that they stand on. The Ofo is intimately associated with Ana because the earth itself is an Ofo, and like the physical Ofo, which is in the household or that is held by the leading man of a family, or by any individual who has started something or brought something into creation and wish to uphold its principles or physically represent its principles, what is said to the Ofo becomes law. What is said to Ana becomes law, and the two hold their sayer accountable to what was promised in perpetuity. But as what is promised to Ana becomes law, in exacting punishment for the violation, Ana does not see an individual as individuals. Rather, if a member of a community violates Iwala, the divine laws of the land, Ana is liable to punish or outright destroy the whole of the community, or everybody who descends from the original person that made that promise to the earth, until the offense is rectified. In Igbo cosmology, An individual is a leaf in a greater tree rather than a tree unto itself. These trees, their branches, roots, and stems comprise of shared ancestors of a people or a line of lineage, meaning that from the roots to the leaf, an individual and their first ancestors are the exact same person or the exact same being in the eyes of our ancestors, and in particular the eyes of Ana, the earth. So rather than seeing a violation of Iwala as a problem between Ana and an individual leaf, Ana interacts with the individual as the tree, meaning that your violations make everyone who shares ancestry with you liable for punishment. And this can go as far as including anyone who touches you after you have committed a crime against the earth, anyone who has had a conversation with you after this crime has been committed, or anybody you come in contact with in a cordial way, as doing any of these things causes a sharing of mo. Mo is an Oraic essence that radiates from Madun, or the person, and the two themselves form the duality Maduna Mo. Mo has a sinking, fluid nature, and is you in the form of light, or an aura that radiates from you, meaning that your feelings, your essence, your character are among the things that radiate from you, and can cause others around you to take in that essence as you take in theirs, similar to dropping red dye in water and witnessing the water become redder, though not as red as the original dye, as it is less concentrated and diluted within the water. For this reason, individuals with titles such as Nze avoid formally greeting or visiting or interacting individuals whose character is unknown to them, as maintaining their own purity is essential for the title. And Nze is an individual who has taken a vow to become a living ancestor. In becoming a living ancestor, the Nze will live by a set of principles determined by his community, which prohibit him from lying, violating Iwala, associating with individuals who have a bad or questionable character, abstain from eating certain foods, and dress and conduct themselves in the way of their ancestors, as is ordained by the title. Now, Ana herself is an Alfa, the ultimate Alfa, and is therefore a vessel of justice, law, authority, and truth. But as Ana is a part of a greater duality, holding the same place as the Alfa, in this duality she is then matched with Igwe, who holds the place of Ogun, which I'll explain shortly. Igwe in Igbo cosmology is the sky, as Ana is the earth. Unlike Ana, whose understanding is universal, the understanding of Igwe differs greatly from community to community. And within these communities themselves, there is a philosophical or theological debate as to the nature of Igwe, as the nature of Igwe will ultimately point you back to the nature of Chukwu. The cosmic coupling of Ana and Igwe share Afo, or the third day in the 4-week Igbo calendar, Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo, meaning that together they live as husband and wife in the house of Afo. In Igbo cosmology, Chukwu created the Abara in order to restore balance and order to the universe. But after some time, the Abara became jealous, suspicious, and envious of each other. Some Abara wanted to prove their ultimate supremacy over the next. Others wanted to prove that they were more favored by Chukwu, and in the end, this risked tearing Chukwu apart. So to answer this issue, Chukwu divided the universe in 4 parts: Eke, Urie, Afo, and Nkwo. Next, he paired each Abara, husband and wife, and placed them in one of these universal houses. And in the middle, Chukwu built a market where each Abara would enter, trade with the next, giving what it had in excess and receiving from the other what it lacked until equilibrium was achieved. The house or place that Ala and Igwe were placed is Afo, the 3rd market day. And together, they form nature's reflection of the relationship between man and woman, which is represented in the Ilu, Elechakwa Odidi Nwoke na Nwanyị, Amara no Amadioha na Ala Shiribi. When you watch the relations between man and woman in their entirety, you will know how Amadioha and Allah live together. In this duality, Ana matches with Nwai or woman, and Igwe matches with Nwoke or man. Ana matches with the Ofo, and Igwe therefore matches with the Ogun. So to understand Amadioha, and why I'm using the term Igwe rather than Amadioha, we must look into the nature of Igwe by understanding what Ogun means. In Igbo cosmology, the Ofo is a staff of truth and justice, or the embodiment of truth and justice itself. It is a physical representation of a pact made between people and that which they consider sacred, or the physical embodiment of that which is the source of justice for a people or a person. In the duality of Igbo cosmology, Ofo is matched with Ogun. Ogun is both the rights and the retributive justice connected to the Ofo, which gives the Ofo its power to execute justice. For example, if you're in a market and there are rules on how to acquire an item, aka if you want something, you look at the price and you give me the money that equates the price and you get the item. Now, these rules are upheld by the Ofo of that market, which are the binding principles of engagement and its rules of conduct. So, if you go to a store and you purchase an item at its given price and you make your payment and you leave, you have kept with the Ofo of that market. Now, the fact that you have received what you came to get, the right and legal way, gives you Ogun or Oguama, good Ogun. You cannot be arrested later for having the item, and if you are arrested, your Ogun, or the fact that you are in righteous standing, will free you from the retribution of justice because you have not violated justice. Ogun is the protection that comes from following the Ofo or being in alignment with Ofo. But if you steal the item and run away, the Ogun of that market's Ofo now says that there is a debt to be paid for your injustice or your criminal violation of the Ofo. Now, the punishment afforded by your actions, either being tackled by store security or hunted by the police or banned from the store, as the instruments of punishment and retribution, now have the Ogun to punish you and act on you as one who has violated the Ofo. Ogun is therefore the effect caused by the Ofo, whether in righteous standing or when you're out of alignment. Both protection and punishment in this regard are two halves of the same force known as Ogun. Now, because the Ofo is a manifestation of Ana, Ana herself is a manifestation of Eke or creation, or the Eke principle in Chineke, as Ana is either said to be the daughter or the resurrection of Eke, depending on how it is interpreted mythologically. And this means that Eke, Ana, and the Ofo are three manifestations of the divine feminine in the world. This makes Igwe, the husband of Ana, a manifestation of Chukwu. And by the way, I know that it's taking some time to get to the Amadioha topic specifically, but I promise I'm getting to that very soon. All of this connective tissue is necessary so that the big picture on Amadioha can be revealed. And without the connective tissue, I don't think that the eureka moment that I had when learning about Amadioha is possible. More manifest like a wave or like a ripple in a pond, with 7 layers being identified by Dibias who are in practice, each layer having a specific nature and a specific character within itself, or a specific function within an individual. Mo, therefore, is one of the harder concepts to understand because of the complexity. But once you look into the different layers of Mo and how each manifests and functions within an individual and in the whole of your manifestation, picture becomes a lot more clear. Mo is the unseen self, an aura of one's own essence that radiates from you and projects in all directions from where you stand into the universe, like the rays of the sun do for the sun. But these rays themselves project in a spectrum with 7 identified spheres. These 7 waves are also linked to the ancestral idea that an individual, or the average individual, reincarnates 7 times. It is also linked to the phrase Uwasa, or the world of sevens, or 7th plane, which is used to describe the universe that we're in. A contemporary Dibia I spoke to likened Mado to Earth, and Mo as its atmosphere and gravitational orbit that themselves must exist in order for the Earth to exist as it is and sustain life, but also exist as a result of the Earth existing, which is important to note for this video. While there are 7 layers, I will only cover the first 3. If you're interested in a video on the 7 waves of Mo, comment below. The first wave, or sphere, is the shadow, an unconscious double self, a remnant of you without thought, feeling, or sentience, but in itself a vessel of your essence. This is the attribute of Mo that is left over from a person's motions and presence. When you enter somebody's car and there is a feeling of their presence within, in contrast to entering a car that has been abandoned for years, or perhaps one that has never been driven. This difference is what is felt. This aspect of Mo is what is likened to the heat left over on your hands after you hold a warm cup of coffee. In a human being, it is a concentration of one's essence in an immaterial, unconscious form. The second layer is the aura, or the light layer. the light that emanates from the individual, and casts the nature of that individual into the wider atmosphere. On the level of nature, this manifests as the rays of the sun, or Abala, as the first shadow layer manifests as Anyanwu, creating the duality Anyanwu na Abala. The third wave of Mo, or Osebuluwa, is the life force, or Ipachi. This third wave in the spectrum is the space that holds life, and within it has 7 waves of its own, which then have 7 more waves of their own, continuing infinitely into time and space, and being the vessel by which life and the creation of life are facilitated. This is the part of Mo that holds an individual's life force, and the 7 layers within it are the necessary ingredients for it to perform this feat. The 7 layers within mirror the 7 layers without, or the larger 7 layers of Mo, which is where the Russian doll concept of the universe in our ancestral worldview finds its origin, with everything being a microcosm of itself on another level. For example, Eke being Uwa on a universal level, Ana on a nature level, and woman on a human level. In Chukwu, this layer, the life-holding layer, manifests as Igwe in the sky, who is paired with Ana, the earth. Now, earlier I said that Ala Nigwe are husband and wife and live in the house of Afo, the third day, and hence the manifestation of both Ala Nigwe in the third wave of Osebuluwa. Now, in this third house, the life-giving house, or Afo, the third market day, which houses earth and sky, Amadioha then comes into play. In Igbo numerology, the third house, or the number 3, is shared by many things, and all of them are ingredients for life. All living things in our ancestral worldview exist as a combination of 4 things: Chi, Eke, Agun, and Mo, so that all manifestations in creation and all manifestations of Chukwu at the different layers or levels of existence consist of these 4 things. But from the Chi comes the force, which gives life animation, movement, as well as purpose and ability. And this is the Ikenga. The Ikenga is one's divine force of movement, that which animates the living and non-living, and heightens its power when it is doing or being what its chi brought it into the world to do or be. As your chi brings you into the world for a purpose, it gives you the Ikenga, or animating force necessary to actualize that purpose. It gives you power equal to the task it commands, and gives the protection and ability necessary to occupy the spaces which it commands you occupy. The Ikenga exists in both men and women, but is strongest in men, and is therefore the source of masculinity, or what we identify as masculinity today. So if a man is a microcosm of Igwe, who is a microcosm of Chukwu, that means that all 3 of these things must have an Ikenga, the power by which their existential will is done. In man, it is called Ikenga Mado. In Igwe, Chukwu's manifestation on a natural level, this Ikenga is known as Amadioha. Amadioha is known as Ezelu, the Lord of the Sky. Kamalu, Kaluakanu, Kanu, Ebueligwe, the gun of heaven. Obuebueligwe, the gunner of heaven. Ofufe, the one who flies. And in many places, the names Igwe, Amadioha, Anyanwu, and Ekwensu are interchangeable, and I'll explain why shortly. Amadioha manifests as either a large white ram or as an imposing titled man with ram-like features. His colors are white and red. And Amadioha, as one part of the spectrum of Chukwu, lives within the sun, or within Anyanwu, the Abara of the sun, specifically in her forehead. And for this reason, much of what is associated with Anyanwu is also associated with Amadioha, with the 2 of them being synonyms in some cultures. Since Amadioha is a kinetic Ikenga force, he's associated with the right hand, and this is the hand which holds the Ofo. What gives this particular attribute of Amadioha particular meaning is the fact that Ana, the earth, herself is seen as Chukwu's Ofo, as she is the ultimate, universal, or natural Ofo, and holding the earth is akin to holding the Ofo, and all man, women, and children are their offspring. As the Father in Providence, Amadioha is therefore the spirit that enacts God's will on earth, the vanguard of truth, justice, righteous authority, and the upright man. As the Ikenga represents an aspirational self when crafted, Amadioha is the aspirational man, or the spiritual embodiment of the complete man, who is, as his name says, Amadioha, the free man of the people. Amadioha is also the upholder and enforcer of Iwala, the laws of the earth, and the source of righteous justice. In the name of Eze Chitoke, or Chukwu, as Ana is the Ofo manifest, Amadioha is therefore Ogun manifest, making the two of them a representation of the pairing Ofo and Ogun. In the name of justice, Amadioha is the protector of the innocent, as Ogun protects the innocent person, and prosecutor of the guilty, as Ogun exacts punishment against the guilty. If an individual goes on trial for an offense, and true justice is subverted, or the human beings involved in the trial fail to enact justice, punishment is thereafter left in the hands of Amadioha. And in failing to exact justice by human hands, if human beings try to enact a punishment on an undeserved person, it is Amadioha who rebalances the scale for the innocent person by rescuing them or smiting those who committed an abomination to justice against an innocent person. Many cases concerning Amadioha are violations of Iwala, the laws of the land, as Ana is his wife and source of his authority. But unlike his consorts, punishment by Amadioha is pinpointed to the exact person who got away with the crime, rather than the destruction of an entire community or lineage, the way Ana typically handles violations of the same crime if gone unrectified. Amadioha is better able to pinpoint an offender when an injustice is committed and there is no confession or the guilty party is not found. It is Amadioha who is summoned to seek the guilty individual and exact a precise justice. In ancestral mythology, the people of the world grew tired of Ana and her arrogance. When one would commit a crime, others would suffer needlessly, and Ana's demand for sacrifice and praise grew too burdensome for the people. In anger, the people deposed Ana as the queen of the world. But as she was the source of justice for the people, without her at the helm, the people were lost. Bypassing Ana, the people appealed to Chukwu for a solution. After hearing the appeal of the people, Chukwu brought forth Amadioha, who would hear trials with a fair ear, carry them into battle successfully, and attend to their hunger for justice with mercy, patience, and discretion. Amadioha is associated with thunder, which is said to come from the sun as his celestial abode, and seek out the unfound guilty, striking them where they stand. Amadioha is said to exact justice by use of bees as well, especially an attack by bees that leads to death, or by use of hypercontagious diseases which cause extreme full-body inflammation, especially when the inflammation is not cured by its conventional medicine and leads to death. Individuals punished by Amadioha die with a black mark on their head, and upon death are not buried or given a second funeral. Mourning is done quietly and privately, as it is those who are celebrated loudly and buried into the earth during a funeral who eventually reincarnate. Committing somebody to the earth who has committed an abomination that warranted punishment from Amadioha itself is seen as an abomination, as these people are not intended to reincarnate. A case of injustice handled by Amadioha often ends in the death of the guilty. An appeasement of Amadioha prior is an expensive affair, often requiring the placement of the Nso, or the spirit of the violation, into a sheep or a ram, and then sending it to a field to be killed. If this animal is killed and eaten by a person, the condemnation of the sin is transferred onto the person. And throughout Igbo land, there are families who have done so historically, that till this day face a great deal of social discrimination when it comes to marriage and participation in cultural activities. I can do a video on this topic, but I touched on it in the Osu Explained documentary, so I'll leave a link below. But just to be clear, the status of that individual who eats the scapegoat or the animal with the sins placed upon it is not exactly Osu, though today they are often grouped together by people who don't know better. Ogun and Amadioha are self-seeking spirits, meaning that with or without human intervention or invocation, they will activate themselves in the restoration of the balance of justice wherever it's been breached. And while Amadioha does not need human appeal to exact justice and rebalance the cosmic scale of the guilty and the innocent, Amadioha does from time to time take human form in order to make these corrections by human hands. One of the things that is key in understanding the Abara is understanding how they manifest in human form. I often get the question as to whether the Abara ever appear as people, and the answer is all human forms are a manifestation of one Abara or the other. For example, a Dibia is a manifestation of Agun. When Agun, the force of divine wisdom, the universal mind and healing manifest in human form, the human being will be identified as a Dibia. The Dibia therefore takes on the nature of Agun, such as a general disinterest in wealth and a greater interest in learning, wisdom, and ideas. As Agun lives deep within the mind, those who are manifestations of Agun seek isolation often. Like Agun, individuals of this nature have an enhanced connective ability with the astral and immaterial, being better adept at channeling meaning from the immaterial than others. Amadioha therefore manifests in human form as an individual who has a mandate or the alpha of the people. In common terms, this is whomever they see as the apex man within a given situation, determined by the collective consent of the people. This mandate, like that of Amadioha, is given by the people to an individual for the sake of executing an aspect of their collective will or serving in an executive capacity. This includes history's great generals, leaders of mass movements, in particular those dedicated to seeking justice for the people. Amadioha is also a man, or the embodiment of a man, who brings just order to a given situation, which can be as small as a single household or gathering of friends to as big as a nation. Order in Igbo symbology is symbolized by the feather, and Amadioha is often depicted with white feathers, as are most forces in a society whom are vanguards of order. The white feather is associated with ascendancy, capacity to reach the sky in a moral sense, or what is necessary to reach Chukwu Okike, which is a devotion to righteousness, and one lives in accordance to Chukwu's design through the example of their ancestors who were closer to him in the past. In the Owu masquerade tradition, Eke is represented by a masquerade known as Nono, one of the many names for Eke, Kamosu, or Nechukwu. This masquerade also represents chaos and disorder, and historically can be dangerous when encountered, with its erratic movements and tendency to be out of control. But one of the things that repels this particular masquerade is the presence of feathers. And it is said that this particular masquerade hates feathers, as the feather represents order, and Nono represents chaos. As the sky is a reflection of Eze Chitoke, it is important to note that the sky is the organizing and order-giving principle in the relationship between sky and earth. Sky gives order to the days through the oscillation of the sun, moon, and stars, organizes the year into 13 moons, or onwa, and organizes the expanse of time into afo, or years. Feathers are also used in the hats of titled men who bring order in their community, in conjunction to what is represented by men who wear feathers. Amadioha does not only represent the man, but the complete man. In Igbo culture, a man who is given a title when he is acknowledged or has self-professed to bring glory to the household or the family name, as well as the community as a whole. A title can also be a declaration or a vow to walk the path of one's ancestors and uphold the principles and traits by which they held the community together from time immemorial. In this worldview, the ultimate goal of the man is to add on to the honor of the family and the community and elevate the status of the family within that community. For this reason, the glory or status of a household or family name is often on the shoulders of the man's performance in the greater game of life. It is therefore an attainment of completion as a man when an individual earns a title from their people after building a home, marrying a woman, having children, and serving as a source of peace and order for the wider community, as well as bringing success and glory to the family name and to the community. As the Ikenga lives in the third wave of Mo in a space known as Ipachi Ikenga, the cultivation space of the Ikenga, reincarnation for a man is determined by 3 performances of Ipa, or cultivation. Ipa is cultivation, and in a man's lifetime, his status in a community and reincarnation will be determined on 3 performances of cultivation. The first is Ipa Mado, the cultivation of the person and people. This includes having children and getting married, which creates unity among families, as Ipa Mado also includes uniting people. Ipa Mado also includes helping others find success and actualize their own will in the world, as well as the cultivation of self and growing from Agua, which is the natural or nature-based self, most visible in children, to Agun, a refined and regulated self guided by wisdom, reason, and purpose. Ipa Mado is done for self, but most importantly for communities, as that is the one that counts the most. And for this reason, success is not only measured in what you are able to do, but what you are able to help others in doing, as well as marriage and the ability to bear multiple children. All work in conjunction to define Ipa Mado. The second is Ipa Akun, the cultivation of wealth. Those who are welcomed by their families to reincarnate are those who bring and cultivate blessings to the family. As your chi brings success, its return to the world is welcomed by others and the family in order to keep the success orbiting within the fold for generations to come. For this reason, the instruments that bring success are sacred in Igbo culture. A man's farm, for example, is regarded as a sacred place, protected by Njokuji, the Abara of agriculture, most specifically the yam. The sacred farm is then housed by a barn which itself is regarded as equal to a sacred shrine and serves as a shrine for the farmer himself. Traditionally, one could not commit various sex acts on a farm or in a barn. They could not fight on farmland or tilled land or commit any community offenses in the barn or on farm soil. And if this was done, the land would have to be cleansed of the aru or spiritual abomination committed upon it. Outside of the farm, crafts such as ironsmithing, carving, sailing, weaving, hunting, being a merchant, and others were all regarded as sacred by those who did them. Often, one's source of wealth or chosen profession was unionized by a masquerade society such as Umabe, which itself is an order of smiths. Entry historically required an oath to Ana to uphold the principles of the organization and protect its trade secrets, as well as an oath of loyalty to their master in an apprenticeship system that is embedded within. I explained these societies, the apprenticeship system, and how traditional education was done in my video, Traditional Education Explained. So if you're interested, the link is below. The third principle is Ibachi, the cultivation of one's chi, walking the path of their destiny and embracing their identity and purpose. With age and experience, an individual grows more aware of who they are and what their chi wants from them. And in keeping to the spiritual practices of one's ancestors, one is better able to hear the first voice or the chi and be guided by it. An individual guided by their chi therefore becomes a godly presence for the wider community. Ibachi, or the cultivation of one's chi in one's lifetime, whether consciously or unconsciously, is a key in reincarnation. Now, it is important to note that fulfilling or not fulfilling these three principles does not automatically determine whether one reincarnates or not. Anyone who is given a full funeral and whose life is celebrated by their loved ones will reincarnate, as a funeral is an invitation to return. The difference comes in what we call Ndyutu. One who is particularly adept in these three principles will reincarnate into multiple children in the next cycle, and this is seen as a great blessing for the community as a whole. Those who are less adept will return in less children or remanifest in fewer numbers. So to my knowledge, the person who I reincarnate from was not particularly successful. So my Ndyutu, or the people who I reincarnated with, are few. To my knowledge, me and two other cousins. Whereas the person my sister reincarnated from was notably more successful and has a larger number of Ndyutu, which is just about every girl that was born in her. Just about every girl that was born in within her 4-year kind of age range. Now, I can do a video on Ndyutu if you're interested, so comment below. Amadioha is also summoned in times of war, particularly just or righteous war. Great war leaders are said to embody Amadioha and often go through a process of marriage to the cause of the war or to the land by way of an oath to the community, which grants them the ofo to command the community army. A similar oath is taken by the apex leaders of a community and the main priests of the arushi in the community, making them the di, or husband of the land, and therefore a mirror of Amadioha, or Igwe in human form. Now, one connection that may be hard to make, since Amadioha is so closely connected to smiting, punishing, fighting, is the association of Amadioha as the Abara of love. As Eze Chitoke, or Chukwu, watches over his wife, Uwa, or the universe, or Ne Chukwu out of love, Amadioha watches over a people and his wife, the land, out of the same conviction or feeling. The way a husband may watch over his home and his wife and children out of love, or the way your chi watches over your eke, or your worldly manifestation with the same love. Amadioha, like a loving but stern father, is giving and gentle, and the gentle aspect of his nature is embodied in the giving rains which fertilize the fields of Ana. And in many respects, Amadioha is depicted as a merciful or generous force until the order of the household or the land is disturbed. And Abara is a specific energy that is used in a multitude of ways, and therefore it's hard to call it a god of this or a god of that, because that ultimately depends on what you use that energy for. And this will vary from household to household, person to person, community to community. So the wisdom of the Abara is in understanding their nature rather than what they are assumed to have dominion over. And applying that nature where it's necessary, as oftentimes multiple Abara can have overlapping natures. For example, let's pretend gasoline, sunlight, coal, and steam are all different Abara, which by the way they are. Now, of course, they have their different natures, but if someone has the intention of powering a boat, this person will in fact choose the force or Abara that best suits the nuances of the goal, such as the community in the mythological story before chose Amadioha as the force by which justice is enacted, because in contrast to Anna, Amadioha is able to single out individuals and asks for very little, and those nuances were preferable based on their situation. Now, perhaps you want to power your boats, but you don't want to burn the ozone, so you choose sunlight, or perhaps there's an abundance of cheap coal and you want to save some money, so you'll choose the coal, and so forth. The same principle applies to how our ancestors saw the Abara. Ultimately, like the story in mythology, where the people decided to choose one over the other, the Abara are there to serve people, not the other way around. So in times of war, some may choose to summon Amadioha, Ekwensu, Agon, or even Anna, depending on the nature of the war, the beliefs of the community, or the nuances of the Abara that may be favorable for that community. Some communities will use Amadioha to symbolize the Ogun connected to the all-fall of the land, where others will use Ekwensu and understand him in the same capacity, both serving as a force which enforces order and exacts punishment, and in some communities being interchangeable terms for each other. But once there is an identified need or desire to make a connection with an Abara, or an Abara is identified for the first time among the forces of nature, a site of communication known as an Arushi, or a source of works, is built for this purpose. An Arushi is a location, shrine, or device used in channeling a particular force of nature, or Abara. The primary Arushi dedicated to channeling Amadioha is located in Ozuzu-Ihobu and was established by a group of specialists known as Umu Amadi. This is said to be the first community to channel this spirit, and like all Arushi, as it proves its effectiveness, it begins to spread into other communities who desire to do the same. And so with their knowledge of how to channel Amadioha and make the force a member of a community, Umu Amadi spread throughout Igbo land and beyond, establishing shrines to Amadioha, primarily in the south and central parts of the Igbo country. A standard shrine to Amadioha will feature an ogu or ho, an mbiopu, an animal horn, often that of a ram, an obiele, an antelope horn, a metal gong, and a knife. This shrine takes sacrifices of ram, which is the true form of Amadioha, but can also take Aturu Amadioha, or the sheep of Amadioha, or Ehi Amadioha. Shrines to Amadioha will also feature evidence to its link to Anyanwu, as in communities such as Akwali. The Amadioha shrine is located inside of a greater shrine complex known as Ihu Anyanwu, or the face of Anyanwu. It is also important to note that in some communities, Anyanwu and Amadioha are not separated. And oftentimes in these communities, typically in the north of Igbo land, Anyanwu is depicted as a man. Now, if you're interested in a video on Anyanwu, comment below, because there's a lot to unpack as far as the concept goes and why there's so much debate on Anyanwu's gender. Once a year, the all-fall holder of a family will traditionally sacrifice to Amadioha, or whichever manifestation of Igwe the community believes in. This sacrifice is done by use of white yam, white eagle feathers, a white fowl, and white cloth. This offering is placed outside of the family compound, in the open and away from other Arushi and shrines within the family, as a single family compound can have multiple shrines within it. Traditionally, the summoning or paying respects to Amadioha was done through the firing of guns into the air as well, or the firing of the Arumaru, a small indigenous gunpowder cannon. Either the gun or the cannon was typically fired at the funeral of titled individuals, or once the funerary procession of the titled individual passes the home of an individual with a gun, or an Arumaru. Outside of summoning Amadioha in war and in seeking justice, Amadioha was commonly summoned in the process of rainmaking by specialist Dibias, who are at times known as Dibia Amadioha, individuals who can summon rain by way of ritual. But in his role as the aspirational man, Amadioha is channeled every day and everywhere there is a man doing what he believes a man should do. When you see a man refine himself towards completion, devote his life towards being a force of justice and righteous order, or becoming what the land needs him to be, you are seeing Amadioha. And through this, the powers our ancestors learned contained in being a man and witness through the mysteries of the sky are unlocked in that individual for the service of the world around him. And that's it. Like I said earlier, this topic, when I first did a deep dive on Amadioha months ago, maybe a year ago, was really a big eye-opener for me and a major eureka moment for me as well. So hopefully there's something in this video that you were able to pick up that was equally valuable, or maybe some things that were worthy of considering, because I know that the topic did a lot for me as far as that goes. If there's anything that stood out about the video or about the concept of Amadioha, go ahead and comment below and let me know. But with that being said, I want to give a thanks to the patrons that make this channel possible. Adalolo, Adaku Utah, Adelakin, Abombioka, Akachi Lamb, Amechi Ekufu, Amaka Adoku, Amanda Johnson, Andrew Anyanwu, Aya Anelli, Bissy Life, Celeste Richmond, Sessa Salam, Shante Thompson, Chelsea E, Chief Chinyere Njokweri, Chika, Chike, Chimoge Ibe, Chinedu Akunne, Chino M, Chris, Abani, Chukudubem A, Chukuma, Bartholomew, Concrete Rose, Cozy, Crystal, Cynthia, Ojiebwe, Ekundayo, Ememe, Emeka Oha, George Allen, Grace, I Am Chizara, Ikenga Nation, Isioma Orihu, Jennifer Harris, Jess Akun, Jules, Laurencia Queen, Lee, Lioness Jade, Liz, Mary, Ayodele, Michael Curran, Michael Owuna, Mystique, Netter Arts, Ngozi, Onuaha, Nick Crenshaw, Nina Nwafia, Namdi Ezuku, Nwaka, the Igbo Cyber Shrine, Ofuora, Okechukwu, Ebizie, Olise Emeka Okakpo, Rachel Nwokoro, Ross Jones, Sack Alexander, Sarah Nwafo, Shanae, Sharika Regina, Stan, Stephen Chin, Suva Monte, The Homegirl Healer, Uche Abweze, Uchenna Campos, Uren Nakara, and Whitney Brianna Thomas. Earlier in this video, I made mention that there are several sky gods or sky spirits with the same general attributes as Amadioha throughout the world. And this is one of the things that actually led me to developing a deep respect and personal application of ancient cosmology, most specifically that of my own ancestors. These correlations, which a lot of you have pointed out to me or have presented me with some that I wasn't even aware of prior to talking to you, really speak to the fact that these cultures and these people are generally expressing something too similar to be ignored, or something too consistent to be a work of ignorance. To my knowledge, it's clear to me that many of the forces come from the fact that the less contemporary view of personhood is more wide-reaching than what we're currently dealing with, or the popular conceptions of personhood. The ability to see personhood in elements of nature brings you a level of connection to that element of nature that's hard to imagine in a modern context. And that opens a lot of possibilities for growing and learning and aligning yourself with nature's design, if that design is something you respect and feel is worthy to align with. A lot of the time we think of gods or Abara as personifications that are manning a station, and a lot of that comes from how Greek mythology is told to us, for reasons that I'll probably cover in a different video. But the way it's told is that Hades is a god that happens to be manning the underworld as his workstation, and Zeus is manning the sky as a workstation. And in this telling, the spirit is separated from the thing that it's associated with. So Zeus becomes the god of the sky, Hades becomes the god of the underworld, and Oceanus becomes the god of the ocean. But if you understand what's being said well, especially in the Igbo context, Igwe is not a spirit that lives in or mans the sky. He is the sky. Ana is not a spirit that lives in the earth or on the earth. She is the earth. And Agun is not a thing that brings wisdom, but wisdom itself. And when you understand that and how they manifest at their different levels, the folk tales and mythology or analogies and so forth start saying a lot more to you. So if the Greeks are telling you a story about Athena triumphing over Ares in a war, there's a lot to be learned by understanding what each of those forces are personifications of, and what is being said about how those ideas relate to each other. I believe these personifications, like most of ancient cosmology, are done by observation. If I look at the sky, there's a nature to it that I and anyone else in the world who's looking at that same sky is going to see. When we describe the nature that we're observing, will tell a very similar story or describe a very similar person or character. And this is how I personally believe a lot of the Abara or spirits or gods across the world take form. Overlap of these cultures is a testament to what is being described, more so than who is describing them. And what is being described is the world itself, the world beyond you and the world inside you. Again, this is Derek Ofadarunwa with The Medicine Show, and thank you.